Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you. 7, actually. But anyway, and the brand, I've had the same hairstyle since I was 12. So there you go. The brand has stood the test of time. Now, I know our topic is what? Some fancy topic on core criteria that venture capitalists look for. I think when you get to the point of VCs, you're already at that stage of growth. Before I get the gentleman to speak, I just want to understand a little bit about the audience, right? How many of you are in businesses? Right? Okay. How many of you are at startup stage? More of you are at the scale-up stage, right? Okay, it's more scale-up. Okay, the rest are just here for to learn, right? To learn. So we're talking about funding, and we love talking about funding. And maybe what and there's so many. We're going to try to be as broad and also maybe go deep dive into certain things because I think they represent very interesting aspects of funding. I'm going to get Sam to start off a little bit about Pitchin in case you all don't understand what they do.
Sure. Thanks, Frida. Again, good afternoon, everyone. Delighted to be here at the DWE conference. So as introduced, my name is Sam Shafi'i. I am the CEO and co-founder of Pitchin. So we're one of the 10 licensed platforms by the Securities Commission to offer a platform for companies, founders like yourself, to raise funding from the general public. Apart from that, we also receive approval to launch the first ever secondary market, which will allow the founders who raise funding on Pitchin to have their shares also traded publicly. And also, excitingly, in a few months, we'll be launching the first ever initial exchange offering, where founders like yourself, rather than give equity away in your company to raise funding, you could offer investors your digital tokens, which either could be utility tokens or securitized tokens. So that's a bit about Pitchin. So we exist to help founders to raise funding, and for some of you guys who may want to invest in companies who could potentially be big one day. Yeah.
Thanks, Sam. Alan, from the Malaysian Business Angel Network. What do angels do? And I just found out that it's a long-lost friend. Okay, but anyway, Alan, you can explain what MBAN does.
Sure. MBAN, in short, it stands for the Malaysia Business Angel Network. Practically, MBAN is the association for the angels investors in Malaysia. So as of today, we have about 330 members within the association. So here, to qualify to be an angel investors with MBAN, you need to be a high net worth individuals. High net worth here means that you either have 3 million in net worth, or you can prove it using income between you and spouse of 250,000, or if it's just based on your personal income, 180,000. So that qualifies you to be a high net worth individual, and with that, you can be accredited as MBAN angel investors. So one of the main benefits of being an MBAN member is the angel tax incentives, where as it is right now, the government provides up to 500,000. The investment that you put into the startups, you can claim up to 500,000 per year, every year, as long as you invest up to that amount, minimum of 5,000. So so that is one of the benefits of being a member of the MBAN. Of course, we do other things like we do deal flows, pitching. We too do lots of angel investors education workshops, programs for our members as well.
So for all those high net worth individuals, you can go for these workshops. I just want to talk a little bit about your own personal journey as well as entrepreneurs, right? That whole journey in terms of fundraising. What were some of the things, your story what were the headaches? And I guess that's why you're in what you're doing right now. Maybe, yeah.
I basically spent 16 years in public service. So I'm a lawyer by training. I don't look like one, but I am. I was a former DPP, prosecutor in the AG chambers in the 90s. Left then to join the Securities Commission before ending my career in public sector with the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission. In 2008, I told myself that if I don't leave now, I'll never leave public service. Because I really want to test myself out there, and because of the internet has really like grown so big, and seeing what is happening around the world in terms of smart people creating new things, technology changing lives, how investors are supporting ecosystems in their own countries to help the country itself grow. So that actually made me want to go out, started my own few companies, failed a number of them. The only one that did quite well was Pitchin, right? But I also ended up investing in companies, early stage technology companies, companies which you may have heard before, Delori, Money Match, MyCash Online. These are early stage companies who came to see us with just a PowerPoint deck. The PowerPoint decks were beautiful, but more than that, we love the founders. Alan and I also then co-invested in companies like La Pasa, Parkit, 24 Angels. So we've been able to actually then speak and meet so many bright-minded founders. Most of them we like, and we ended up investing in them. And those companies are now changing the landscape of entrepreneurship, not just in Malaysia, but also in the region. So we've been lucky that not only do we find those people, that these people, these founders, also trust us to actually invest in them.
Okay. No, because I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that, because we like them, but also there is beyond liking them, there's also the business. But I want to talk about that later, right? What's the right balance? And so for you, Alan, your story into entrepreneurship, and then, of course, where you are now.
Yeah. I personally own a company called Media Bank. That was when I first met Frida Liu, when I was a handsome young man and she was a beautiful lady. Sorry. That was like 26, 27 years ago. It's called Media Bank, and started that in 1997. M&A in 2011, 2014, got it listed in the Australian Stock Exchange. And, but through the M&A, the Australian party would like to carry on to run the company. I was happy to leave the business. So through that, upon IPO, sold all my shares, and that was in 2014. So you can say that's 9 years ago. So I left, and then I met Sam 9 years ago. He's sort of my guru, where I learned to write checks to start up and expect not to have a return out of it. 10 checks, he told me 9 checks, you can forget about it. And I did, and I've been doing that for the last 9 years.
Right. Okay. Now you go through the EC. I'll focus a little bit more on the ECF route. Of course, you do other things as well. So when you look at businesses, right, from the ECF route first, right? I mean, how do you know what do you decide to bank on?
So running an ECF platform has a lot of responsibilities to it. Again, I'm not investing, but what I'm allowing to be listed on the platforms are companies which we think are investable, right? Which means that, first of all, I need to do due diligence and compliance. That's something mandatory. The regulators will chase after me if I don't do that, and they will. We actually went through a regulatory assessment by the SC after 5 years. Frida, it was not fun, I can tell you that, right? that shows that regulators really want platforms to ensure that the companies who are put on a platform like Pitchin are companies who have already disclosed whatever information they need so that investors like yourself are able to make a well-informed decision to invest in these companies. Yeah? So what we look for, first of all, is we look for a team, just like what Alan and I normally look at. First of all, if I want to lose this company on Pitchin, I need to know that I myself would want to invest in them, right? So the first thing is that we look at the companies and see whether they're investable. So when we look at that, we look at very basic foundation things first, i.e. the team and the founders. Are they the team that could lead this company to the next level after fundraising from the crowd? Is the market big enough for them to scale and also exist even when there are other competitors in the market? And last but not least, I'm just simplifying things, last but not least, upon receiving the money, do they have the right strategies to scale beyond where they are right now? That's the three most important things that we look for. Having said that, I can share with you that we have actually listed at least 4 companies, Frida, that came on Pitchin with just an idea, just a PowerPoint deck. That's really, really risky. These are the things that I and Alan do on a day-to-day basis. And I would not recommend it to anyone unless you have a lot of patience, right? But then these 4 companies, fortunately, managed to raise funding and also have now done quite well, right? So while the fundamental decision-making is based on the 3 things which I look for, but sometimes we are lucky to find founders that we feel, after speaking to them, after getting third parties to also speak to them, that they are probably above and beyond what we normally see in founders.
Okay, now when you look at that, right, is it different in terms of the risks? The risk different when it comes to ECF and angels, right? Because the risks are sort of spread out through ECF, right? And whereas angels is my money, right? So is that something at the back of your mind?
Yeah, it is. But having said that, Frida, I think what's the beauty, and again, I'm biased. I run a platform. Obviously, I'll be very supportive of ECF. But ECF exists to actually accommodate everyone to come in and not to really invest the whole amount, but small portions so that all of us as a group will then share that risk rather than have, say, Alan having the whole risk of investing in one company, right? So I think that's what ECF does very well. In the early days, companies can raise up to 3 million, which means that only high net worth angel investors and retail investors can come in. Now, the government has allowed companies to invest even up to 20 million, which means we can now have the smart people, and I say this because they should be smart, VCs to come on to, again, co-invest with the crowd. So I like this particular quote by Naval Ravikant. If you guys are not familiar with them, do Google him. He has a book. Read his book. You could download it from the internet. It's free. I like the quote. VCs bring expertise to the board, right? So they're smart people. That's why they're VCs, like Raymond behind there. Sorry to put you in position, Raymond. But the crowd, people like us, what we do is that we bring fans, customers to the table, i.e. to the company. Because as crowd fund or crowd investors, we then understand that we are now investors in this company. We would then go out to evangelize and market the company which we had invested in. So while the smart people, the VCs, give good advice, the crowd will then push in terms of helping these companies to do better outside.
Okay, Alan, are the expectations different from an angel perspective? And I know you provide funding for pre-seed, seed, and pre-A. And for some people who don't understand, maybe just a little bit for understanding. And is it different when it comes to ECF and angels?
I think maybe I can define what is pre-seed, seed, or pre-A first. If you could just imagine someone wanted to start a business and he or she came out, like what Sam said, their PowerPoint slides, right? Those are what we call it the minimum, and from the PowerPoint slides, they went ahead and create the minimum viable product. No client yet. That is what we call it a pre-seed stage. And with the minimum viable product, then they go out and test the market. And that was those days when I first met Frida. In fact, she helped me in that particular meeting. She helped me with my minimum viable product.
And I'm getting a share now. I just found out. Okay. Anyway.
So I actually came up with a minimum viable product of do a compilation of an advertising library of Malaysia, right? So it's a more of a big data game. And during that particular meeting, Frida she got so excited, and I said, Alan, if you can monitor all the ads in all the media in Malaysia, can you monitor the news for me? Because she was with the corporate communication departments, and she was having problem to monitor all news about IBM competitors, and news about the IT industry in general. So she challenged me that, and I took it on and create a new product out of it. So that is when you start to do the, what we call it, the product market fit. And you start to revenue it. It means you start to sell it. You know, that once you are reaching that particular stage, more or less you are at the sixth stage. Yeah? And next, you start to scale the business with more revenue. You start to build metrics from your businesses. And all those are done through validating every aspect of the business, be it the tech, the marketing, the financials, the product, the people behind the business. And when we got all that done, and your business, what we call it, start to do the hockey stick, the J curve. And that is when you start to get into the pre-A or the A level. Yeah. So that, in short, I hope give you a good preview of what a pre-seed, seed, and A series level is.
So I know. So when it comes to fundraising, and I like both your opinions. How do you decide what's the best route, angels or ECF? Of course, you all have your opinions, but I will hear both.
Sure. Like I mentioned just now, I think earlier, before ECF was around, any companies or any founders that want to start a business would actually have an angel investor. And I think angel investors are very, very important, especially in the early days, because angel investors are people who already have gone through that journey of creating a company, right? Which means that they know what needs to be avoided and what needs to be done. Now with ECF, the strength of ECF again is really about the crowd, really about de-risking some of the risk as investors you may have if you were to put all of your money into one company, right? So a good founder or good company, even if they were to approach equity crowdfunding as an option for them to raise their funding, would be wise to actually have a variety of investors, not just retail, who are typically your customers and your clients, but people like Alan, right? So we would advise companies when they raise on pitch-in, apart from reaching out to your customers and clients who probably love you and want to invest in you too, but you also should spend some time in picking out angel investors that you may think would be able to help you in your journey. So when you have a mix of them, then that's where the fundraising through equity crowdfunding makes sense, right? But then again, if you're a founder that you think that you know everything that needs to be done, then fundraising through equity crowdfunding is just a matter of just raising money. But I always feel that if you're not looking at the overall picture, you're missing the beauty and the strength of actually doing it through equity crowdfunding.
Okay, strategic investors, right? So
Yep.
no, not just anyone who can give you money, but they may have the resources, the network. I just want to go on. Baby Dash was yours, right?
Yep.
So when I heard about Baby Dash, I'm not the target audience anymore. My kid was already past diapers, but it was a great marketing exercise, right? And I know that a lot of the investors were their fan base.
They were.
Right? So it's a great way. Yeah.
Again, Baby Dash, again, great example, Frida. Baby Dash were very smart, the two ladies, Lavini and Shanli. Shanli has left already, but Lavini is still running Baby Dash. They were focused on targeting their own clients, right? Mothers, right? And again, mothers, when they love a product, they will share that information with other people. But if they invest in the product, man, they doubly love the product, right? Which means now, not only do I want to share this with other mothers about the product, but I want to ask them to really buy it like every month, because they know that every time people buy, the value of her shares or their shares goes up. At the same time, Lavini and Shanli was also very smart in terms of identifying angel investors, and two of them which she targeted and got. And the two of them also joined into their board. So I think Baby Dash was really a clear example of founders understanding why equity crowdfunding works for them.
Okay. So when do they look for you, Alan?
I think if I could just elaborate a little bit, you know. So just now when I said that when you are MVP stage, the kind of funding route that one should take, we call it the 3F, family, friends, and the fools. Because at that stage, you don't have a product. You don't have a validated product. You don't have revenue. So why you go for the 3Fs is because 3F will invest in you, not your company. You have no records of the company, right? So now, once you get the MVP done and you move into the product fit stage, so you start to having tractions in the market, that is when you go for angels or ECFs. Before that, family and friends, or government loans, government grants, that is the best place for you to be. And once you're done with the angels rounds, and now once, like I mentioned earlier, once you start to hit the J curve, and that's when you go for VCs and later stage. I think this is where the understanding by the startup founders in the market sometimes is still not quite clear. I've heard many startups that actually went to approach VC when they were, like what Sam said, they were just having the 7-page PowerPoint slides, right? So yeah, I think if we can get that clear, and founders knows this, and if they can move from stage to stage, I think the funding routes have become a lot clearer and easier.
It has. I want to talk about the good, the bad, and maybe the ugly. So the 7-page slide, whatever, what convinced you to put money there?
So when I invest, and I typically invest in very early stage companies. Why? Because when these companies become big, I am probably the first one to get out, right? So I do early investments, and there are, again, 3 things which I look at. Those 3 things, if I divide in terms of percentages, 51% of them will actually be about the founders and the team. To me, that's everything about the company, right? I may like what they're doing right now at the time when they were pitching to me, but if it doesn't work, I trust these people will figure out what to do next. And some of the best companies which I think Alan and I have invested in are actually people that are really good. I.e., not only are we investing in them, but you know what? I learn a lot from them. People who are 20 years younger than me, but they really teach me a lot, right? So 3 things, team and founders, that's really the biggest factor. Second would be, what are the problems that these companies are trying to solve? Is this really a major problem? Is this a problem that is a problem, but the market is too small, that you can't even scale beyond, say, Malaysia? So that's second. And the third, I really want to know what's your thought process in terms of scaling. Now, what you shared with me at that time may not be the actual strategy that will later prove to be the strategy. But I'd like to back founders who can think on their feet. So even if I throw them something, they're able to respond. I don't want to see people who are very defensive, right? I want people to actually can also be a sponge to absorb, yeah, to listen, and also then to give back, right? And those debates can really food for brain, right? So I'm looking for those people that can actually get me to be excited about them, right? Rather than just your typical founders. These are the differences between a good founder that would actually give me and Alan that 10x, 20x, or 30x, or founders who would probably also teach us, Alan, but teach us not to do, right?
Okay.
Right. So the ones that don't really well, again, I still celebrate them because they also teach me what not to do in the future.
I want to get that story later. That's the ugly part, the bad and ugly part. So I'm putting down the ratio of 51% to the founding team members, and then the market, and how many percent would you put into the problem they're trying to solve?
Right. So I'm a lawyer by training, so my math is really, really bad. So I'll just figure out, right? So 51 on the founders. Then, of course, the market is really important.
Yes.
The problem is really important. So I would put that roughly around 30%.
Okay.
Yeah. And the balance is yes, easy, right? So the balance is
the balance is the ability to scale.
That's right.
Okay, for you, Alan.
I would agree with Sam. If there's anything among the three things that he mentioned, I'll add the fourth one, which we focus a little bit more on, is the market size. How big the market size that the founding teams problem statements are looking to solve, right? And that is where the return is as far as the market size is concerned. The other thing is that the earlier the stage of the startups, in this case, if they are in MVP stage, in our case, we put up to 70 to 80% weightage on the team. But as they progress, as they reach like the A stage and all that, the team, become less. And the problems that they are looking to solve, the product market fit and all that has become more and more important.
Okay.
So
As the company grows and all that.
As the company grows,
Okay, and
yeah.
how fast do you normally expect ROI? When do you expect? Yeah.
The earliest my own experience, the earliest was 3 years.
Okay.
So this was the Lori. So within 3 years, we exited. They raised their Series A. A bigger investor wanted more equity, and we were offered to get out. And the exit was really, really good. It was 30 times our investments.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the earliest. Having said that, Alan, we agree that probably 5 years. Yeah.
I think 5 to 8 years horizon should be
Okay,
a fair
so
period.
it's still 5 to 8 years. No matter how fast things change, that's the reality, right? Yeah. Okay, now I want to get to when was there a time, I'm sure, from your weightage of things where something didn't work out, and why?
Yeah. And again, Frida, that's really the majority of it, right? We've invested in 50 plus companies. The ones that are doing well right now is probably, I would say, less than 10 of it. Yeah. And then it's quite typical. In fact, someone told me that's quite high in terms of percentage. But I think we've been lucky enough to back quite good companies and founders. But the other 30, 40 plus has been a nightmare, Frida.
Tell a story, tell a story. It was the team, right?
It was a team, yeah.
It was always a team.
It was a team, right? So no matter how hard you try to tell yourself to be careful about things, to look out for little things, you just can't foresee what could happen in month 2 or month 3, right? So what we typically do is that when companies pitch or founders pitch to us, everyone is all rehearsed, everyone practices, everyone reads what not to do and what to do during a pitching session. So everything is all well and fine. It's after you give them money, that's when you probably see the real person behind that founder, right? So at Pitchin, from what we do at when we invest in companies ourselves. So me and Kashminder, my co-founder, what we would like to do is tag team. After the pitching session, we like what we hear. We have a sense of these guys are good. I will then either buy them lunch. Cash will then take them out for coffee and tea. And then we exchange notes and we decide. Even then, we still got it wrong after 2-3 months, right? And a lot of it, Frida, has got to do with how the team are actually working together, right? Now, when challenges, so everyone feels that when things are great, when we get money, everyone celebrates, right? But when people are against the wall, there you will see teams not being able to address challenges. That's probably one of the major reasons why early stage companies fail. But it's a risk that we have to take as investors.
Right. Alan, your story?
Yeah, I invested in about as many startups as Sam. I would say that 1/3 of them are dead.
Zombies?
As in,
They're still walking around, walking dead.
no, they're not walking dead, they're dead. and
Totally horizontal.
another 1/3 is walking dead. We call it the zombie. You know, the company is still there, but it's not going anywhere, and refuse to let it die. But you know, they just couldn't scale in the market, right? Of course, we have 1/3 that's doing well. The 1/3 that's doing well, just like what Sam said, about 10 of them doing really well. We to the earlier questions, we invested in. We have got 100% return on one of the startups that we got 100% return within 3 months. We have a 600%, 6x return within 6 months. That means every dollar you put in, you get back $7, right? So you have a 600% return. We have some in our portfolio with a couple 100 times return. You know, so that is basically how the spread of the returns.
Okay. I want to talk about the Walking Dead, the zombies. What is that? The sunk cost fallacy, was it? You know, like, I put the money in it, I'm not willing to let go, it's really dying, right? But when do you come in, I'm sure when you meet people, when do you know it's time, hey, let it go, you know? When do you tell them that?
I think for early stage companies, I think you know very, very fast, right? The first 6 months, you know whether it's going somewhere or not going anywhere, right? And I think the same with Alan's experience too. 6 months down the road, I can tell whether these companies will have any future or if it would not. Those who come under that potentially would not, we will then have that heart-to-heart talk with the founders. Some of them insist of trying to do what they've been doing for the last 5 months. This is akin to someone banging their head and doing the same thing, expecting something different to happen, right? Now, having 8% in the company does not get you that ability to force them to do X, Y, Z. So what we can do is just, as what Alan would also tell you, is just sit back and just watch the drama unfold, right? But we know for a fact that this will not go anywhere. And again, most of the time we just tell them, just kill it, take that company at the back and just shoot it, right? And move on, right? I've lost money, you've lost money and time, just move on.
Yeah, I think this is where between the 1/3 and 1/3, I actually prefer the 1/3 that just die off. You know, the 1/3 that is zombie is really painful. Really painful for me to watch them. You know, not living and not dying. And of course, looking at your own money as well, not doing anything about it. So this is where we personally, I have to say, this is where I see it wrong as an angel investors. See right means that you are able to pick the right founding team, like very, very early stage, we bank 70, 80% on our money on the founding team, right? A founding team should not get their company caught up in the zombie mode. Because once you are in that mode, you pivot. If you are not able to pivot, means I saw the wrong team. So this is where it should not happen. And if you really cannot do it, it's better to...
What was interesting, Frida, and again, what I call Alan mentioned about pivoting, right? I think, Alan, some of the major companies that we backed had pivoted along the way.
I'm not seeing any company that have not pivoted.
That's right, yeah. So My Cash Online pivoted, Delori pivoted, La Pasa pivoted, right? So
24 Angels pivoted,
Precisely,
Bucket,
right? So backing founders who has this ability to know that it's not working and to change, right?
Right.
That's really difficult to find because all of us love what we think could work, right? And no one wants to admit that we were wrong in the first 2 months, right? But the ability to know quickly and change direction is really, really important.
Right. Is there when you look at all the founder and co-founders, is there a minimum number? Do you back with one person only, or you do need a team? And is too big a team also a problem?
Really good answer, right? So everyone asks, question, right? So a lot of people ask me, Sam, would you back a solo founder, right? Yes and no. But you know what? The evidence, at least that I see, and I think Alan will back me on this, is that companies who have 2 or more founders tend to do better, right? The companies that we've backed together, La Pasa and Paket, again, the Yin and Yang, the Lori, Nadir and Chihao. Nadir is the face, Chihao is the guy behind the scene, burning the kerosene oil, helping, ensuring the companies are good, right? Who else? Policy Street, again, right? All the companies that we've backed are really companies who are founded by 2 or 3 founders. But then, I've also backed a founding team of 4 people, and Frida, that was a nightmare, right? Because, oh man, the different personality, the ego among the 4, that was the reason why they fought and they failed, right? So I think 2 or 3 would be the best number.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, I normally would like to see at least three members in the founding team. But what's important here is this. I am also looking out for the energy that each of them carry, right? I would like to see one guy that is a go-getter, that is result-oriented, that will bring back the milk for the baby they have created. If it's not, the baby is not going to survive, right? The second person, like what some of the startups that you know in town, like in the case of the Lori, while Nadir is bring to the table the energy of entrepreneurship. His co-founder bring to the table the operational skill. So you need, it's not that you just need 3, but you need 3 with complementary energy. If it's not, it will not work as well.
So someone to bring back the milk, someone to change the nappies.
And someone to continue coming up with new ideas to pivot the business.
Right. I was going to open the floor for questions, but no time. Okay, but you all can speak to them separately. Maybe just parting words of advice in terms of a company, anybody here right now looking at funding or what have you. When is the right time? When do you start, when is the right time to look at funding? We don't want to be grantpreneurs as well, right? When do when you've utilized all your friends, your family, and when is the right time, and when do you know what is the right vehicle?
Yeah. So I always look funding as fuel, right? Fuel for growth. And I think that's where investors are looking to invest, when they know this is going to be used to fuel the growth of the company. No one wants to invest in something that, well, when I say no one, Alan and I do, but no one wants to invest in something that people will use the money to try out certain things.
That's the one-third that's dead.
That's right, yeah. But we do that, right? And we take a huge risk. But by far the majority of investors, even in equity crowdfunding, they want to see their money act as fuel. So when the question is, when should you fundraise? Is when you know you need fuel to really scale your company. That's when you're the most sexy in front of investors.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, you fundraise for the people for the right people when you are MVP stage, when you got your product market fit, you fundraise with the people that is right for you, and once you are able to scale, and that is when you go to the VC, you know. So that's a right time for different stages of the company that is in.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
A round of applause. Sam, Alan, my 5%. Thank you very much. And I think it's time for lunch. Back to the MC.
Yes, it is time for lunch. All right, picture time, picture time. Thank you very much for the insight.